someone on Twitter called you, which I love, a pop culture nerd's dream come true. What do you make of that?
I think that's because as a fan of that stuff as a kid, you know, I'm very I wear my heart on my sleeve in terms of the stuff that I've enjoyed in the past, and I've gone from being a fan of those things to being involved in them, you know. So from being a Star Trek fan, I used to watch Mission Impossible as a kid on the TV, you know, before it was filmed.
Yeah.
And so to get there and be part of it, you know, I think sometimes some of the fans get a vicarious thrill out of, oh, he's one of us, he made it to that.
Do you actively try to be in every good franchise on the planet?
I genuinely don't.
You don't. This is just people are like, we want our franchise to be successful. You know who we need? Simon Pegg.
You know, J.J. Abrams is very responsible. You know, he got me into Mission in the first place.
Yeah.
Back in 2006, he gave me the role in Star Trek, and in Star Wars. You know, playing the big fat sort of blob man in Star Wars. So I owe JJ a big thank you for that.
And how do you thank JJ? Like, do you send a Christmas present? Is it like a Gucci bag?
I take him out for lunch every now and again.
Just a sandwich.
I saw him in London recently. I love catching up with JJ, and you know, it's been such a joy to be part of this whole thing, and I have to thank him for that.
All right, so I need to talk about this movie. I love the scene. I think it's one of the pivotal, most important scenes in the entire movie that you're a part of. Not to give anything away, but you're asked, you know, what matters the most to you.
Yeah,
so what matters the most to you?
To me personally,
Yeah.
my family and my daughter, you know, I've got a 14-year-old daughter, and she's my absolute world, you know. She's the most incredible human being I've ever met, and you know, my wife wouldn't mind me saying that. But I and along with Benji, you know, friends are important. Friends are the family we get to choose, you know, and that's an incredibly important part of my life. So, and my dogs. Don't forget my dogs.
I mean, who could forget the dogs?
If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know my dogs.
It's hard to decide what you like more, your dogs or Tom Cruise sometimes. You know what I mean? You're
my dogs.
Oh, you're okay.
Absolutely.
For sure. Okay, good.
Tom will be fine with that. You know?
Would.
He knows his place.
I love your friendship. What is it like to have him as a friend and a confidant on set?
It's wonderful, you know. When I first met him, it was my first time in Hollywood. I'd never been to Hollywood before, and I found myself on the Paramount lot. And he came out, was on set the first day we met, and he immediately made me feel very welcome, very at home. He was incredibly generous. And over the 17 years that we've been friends, it's just, I feel lucky to kind of get to see a part of him that everyone else really wants to see, which is just the guy. You know, and he is just a guy. You know, he's an extraordinary guy. He's a guy who feels an obligation to his audience to risk his life for them. You know, to kind of like entertain them. But of all the kind of mist of stuff that surrounds him, in the center of that mist is a generous, sweet guy who looks after everybody. You know, he leads from the top down, and he's kind of inspiring to be around. There is no one else like him. He is the last movie star, you know, of the old kind, you know, the 20th century classic movie star. He's the last one. He's unique, and I love him.
What movie, you said like you used to watch all these different things growing up, like what Tom Cruise movie made you realize like Tom Cruise is a movie star and one day I want to be in movies?
I don't know, I look back on those early days. I remember him in Legend and thinking, who's this guy? He's so handsome, you know, dancing around with fox. He told me he had a fight with a fox on that film. It's hilarious. And then, obviously, when the high concept films, you know, Top Gun came in, I always think, for me, Jerry Maguire, you know, it's the best Oscar-winning performance that never won an Oscar. I still feel that was an injustice. Tom plays vulnerable really, really well. We often see him playing these kind of guys that are almost bulletproof.
Yeah, yeah.
Although, having said that, you know, both Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt both show vulnerability, and he does that really well, I think.
Yeah, there's moments in this movie where I'm like, am I watching an action movie or am I watching, like, am I emotional about this? Like,
Yeah.
It really, it brings you into both things. How many times have you seen the movie?
Once.
Only one time?
Yep.
Okay.
And I'm going to watch it again at the premiere.
Okay. And my last question for you is, you mentioned your 14-year-old daughter. Is she using you for Hollywood perks right now? Like, is she like...
Freebies.
Can I get Taylor Swift Eras tickets or anything like that?
She'd probably want to go see the Pixies. That's her thing. She's a little punk.
Oh, she's cool.
Yeah. She's determined. She's very interested in film. She's grown up with me watching movies. She loves cinema. She loves Tom. Like, Tom and Tilly get on so well. They're like buddies. And she's had all this access to kind of...
Sure.
But she's determined not to be a Nepo baby. She wants to... If she's going to do what I do, she's going to make it, you know, by herself. So she would refuse those tickets. Say, I'll get them, Dad.
She's so wrong. Be a Nepo baby. It is so hard in Hollywood. Please use your dad for everything you can.
I get so annoyed when I see those articles because it's like, well, if you hang around with your mom and dad all your life, maybe you're going to want to do what they do. It's not, you know, anyway.
I love it
it's another
so
discussion.
Much. All right, so this movie, I think it's hard to believe that the stunts outstunt the other movies.
Yeah.
What's your favorite scene? What's your favorite stunt?
I mean, I've seen Tom do so many crazy things. I say crazy, he's not crazy about it. He's very, very careful. He trains. You know, he's kind of the opposite of crazy, even though what he does seems that way. I loved the stunt in this film, the motorcycle stunt. We were all up there. Myself, Klementieff, Hayley Atwell, Shea Wiggum, Tarzan Davis, Esai Morales. We were literally all holding on to each other, watching this happen, and Tom would go off the cliff. He would disappear out of sight. And then there'd be this pause. And then after a short time, there'd be the, okay, good canopy, and we'd know he survived. But that pause, I tell you, I mean, we didn't know if we were going to lose our leading guy, you know, and it was a, however careful he is, however skilled he is, there's always an element of uncertainty. And the fact that he does that kind of just blows my mind.
And I was walking back with all the press yesterday from the screening, and we were discussing, like, like, when Tom Cruise dies, like, this is such a harsh thing to say.
That's
but,
not
like,
gonna happen.
Well, here's the thing, he's never gonna die, but if he died of old age, he would be so disappointed. Like, he has to die motorcycling off a cliff or something. I mean, I don't want him to. But
I know what you're saying.
When it's time for him to go, please let him, like, be jumping out of a helicopter, because that seems like his true love.
I want him to get to a point where all he can do is sit in an armchair. I've known Tom for 17 years. I've seen him sleep twice. One time on a plane when we were flying to Tokyo, and both of us had a nap. And then one time I bought him a special chair, a zero-gravity garden chair, which I always have on set.
Yeah.
Jeff Bridges gave me one in 2008. I've never gone back. I always have it on set. I gave Tom one. Sit on set on this, because it's the most comfortable. And I peeked into his little easy up, and he was like that. And I thought, yes, I've made Tom Cruise go to sleep.
What was the first Tom Cruise movie that you saw that made you fall in love with Tom Cruise?
Oh my gosh, great question. I think, you know, I saw Top Gun when I was really, really little, after it had come out, right? But I think when I was older, the two films for me that really made me totally be kind of overwhelmed at his talent and his range was Jerry Maguire and then Magnolia. And then seeing him do Tropic Thunder. I think the thing with Tom is it's how his career spans all these different characters and genres, while also maintaining that we know it's the Tom Cruise brand.
What's so crazy about this Mission Impossible is that if you're like an adrenaline crazy stunt junkie, obviously you're gonna love Mission Impossible, but if you're me, like a sad sap heart who loves a rom-com, the chemistry between you and Tom Cruise is next freaking level. I wanna know, did you have to audition? Was there a chemistry test? Like, how did you...
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So Chris McQuarrie came and saw me in a play in London 10 years ago, and he said, I want what you do on stage. I want to bottle it, and I want to create and write the character for you. I just don't know what that is yet. So the next phase of that, 10 years later, he calls me and he says, we're having a very ambitious discussion about the next 2 installments of Mission Impossible that are going to have to be a part 1 and part 2 because it's so big. And we're looking for our new leading lady opposite Tom. And when I went in, I had read with Tom before. I knew that he's very present, he's very professional, and he goes out of way to make sure that anyone around him in working capacity makes them feel very safe, so they can be creative. So when I walked into the screen test, it was clear that they had this symbiotic relationship and that they were looking for an actor who got and liked and respected their work ethic to then create the character for based on training.
Yeah.
So then the next stage is discussing with them references of films like What's Up Doc, Paper Moon, The Sting, The Train, 70s heist movies, broadcast news, and going, oh, and I was like, oh, you guys are looking for levity between these two characters in a way that we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
And then from out of that, there comes the comedy of the Fiat 500 and the handcuffs and You know, all of that was sort of meticulously planned out based on them kind of paying attention to me.
It felt like you, like, I just love, like, I believed it so much. Like, I thought you did such a fabulous job, and it's exactly what you just said. Like, there's this levity where you're kind of a prankster and you're messing with each other, but you're like, there's this attraction, and like, you never see it's so fantastic. What was your favorite stunt day? Was it train day?
Oh my gosh. Well, no, they would train months.
Okay.
And then we finished it, and then a year later we came back to it. So like that was literally a runaway train that never stopped, that whole stunt sequence. I think, gosh, it was so hard. I think, you know, any day where you have completed a shot or completed a stunt is so deeply fulfilling. I remember, you know, when we're drifting in Rome, there was a day that we were losing the light. It was starting to rain, so the ground was getting wet and therefore slippery to drift in. I was handcuffed to Tom, who was in the passenger seat, a place that literally and metaphorically, not his favorite place to be. And he trusted me with his life doing this stunt. And I was drifting and doing spins, 360s, and because I couldn't see where the cameras were positioned, I was sort of in a space where I had to just totally trust my training would kick in. Then on action, Tom would improvise, and sometimes he would say a line as Ethan, like, stop, slow down.
Yeah.
But also I had to work out whether that might also be Tom telling Hayley to actually slow down, or he would be suggesting a line for me to say, rather than it being his own line. So it's like 3-dimensional chess that you're playing, 4-dimensional chess. And I loved how contagious that was, the energy.
I love what you just said. You're handcuffed to Tom. This is like the iconic, there's so many iconic scenes in this movie, but this is the scene that a lot of people saw you shoot, the paparazzi got you guys, so like a lot of people know it's coming. You're handcuffed to Tom Cruise and he's not driving the stunt. What is he like in that moment? Because I agree with what you said. It's probably his least favorite place to be because he's used to being the guy that's jumping off with the parachute.
Well, also, I mean, alongside that, he also is so, he allows Ethan Hunt to get a little embarrassed. And that, to me, is an actor who's a true creator. He's not someone who's overly concerned with his own pride or ego. He leaves that at the door and goes, what's great for the scene, what's great for the movie? So when he does he turns on the engine of the Fiat 500 and accidentally turns on the windscreen wipers, that moment of embarrassment for Ethan is so beautiful because it's so endearing, because we're going, oh my gosh, Ethan Hunt's been undermined by a Fiat 500. That's... And you can imagine Ethan Hunt's like, I'm not usually, if you watch my other films, you'll see that I'm actually better than this. And it takes tremendous, sense of understanding about characterization to be able to do that.
You've been hustling in this business for such a long time. Do you ever sit back and think, listen, I'm in Mission Impossible, I'm Agent Carter, like, you did it. Like, you're the it girl. Like, does that ever, like, cross your mind?
No, never. Never.
Not even now when I say it?
No. No, and well, it's so lovely to hear that, and thank you. That compliment I will receive graciously. I think I'm a worker bee. I love working, and it's where I feel most alive. It also means I'm not reflecting or analyzing my own life. I'm getting out of my own head. I'm participating. I'm contributing. I'm learning. And that for me is the drive. And I think any time when I would sit down and be like, made it, nailed it. First of all, pride comes before a fall. I'd fall flat on my face.
Yep.
And I would be humbled by that experience. But I think also, I'd be like, oh, I guess I've kind of done everything.
Right.
And I think that hunger is something that's always driven me. And it means that I'll always be grateful for the opportunities that come my way. It's so important because it's such a privilege to be here.
What was it like to, work with Tom and be a part of Mission Impossible?
Amazing. It felt amazing to join in Fallout at the time because of the history of it's been 30 years since he did the first one, and Vanessa Redgrave plays my mother in the first one, so there's such an amazing link, and she's just the first of so many actors. I mean, Kristen Scott Thomas is in that movie and has that amazing scene, doesn't she? And Philip Seymour Hoffman and Tandy Newton and all these brilliant actors throughout the different ones, and then here we are together. It's so nice.
It's so crazy. I read an article where you said that Tom has, quote, an unhinged thirst for perfection And I love that so much, but does that put pressure on you because you're in these scenes and you're like, okay, it's got to be right?
It puts. What did they say last night? They said, I think Tom and Chris were talking. We had dinner all together, and they said something like, "You're in equal parts so inspired and terrified." And I think that's the state that everybody's in, because it's like jumping off a cliff with a motorcycle. You must be. I mean, in fact, he wasn't. He was totally fearless. But I think it requires a real level of commitment and passion and turning up and care. And it's just a beautiful way of working.
There's also so much trust. We have so much trust in him and McHugh, Christopher McQuarrie. And the thing is, they just set the bar so high that we also need to step up our game even more, so it makes everyone better too, and they care so much about the movie. They spend so much time crafting it and making it perfect, and also with the editor Eddie Hamilton, that sometimes we don't talk about him and how amazing he is, and they craft something that is so perfect. And I mean, we watched the movie a few days ago, and we're both blown away. I went back to my hotel room and it was just kind of like I couldn't speak. I was overwhelmed by how good it was.
Yeah, people can be afraid of the length, especially in our culture right now, where we watch everything for 4 seconds.
Long.
It went by like that, right? And most of it I was like,
yes.
It is such a thrill ride and so crazy. Do you guys have a favorite stunt from the movie?
I mean, Tom's stunt was incredible. The motorcycle cliff jump, I'm sure. Yeah, we can't not talk about this one. I mean, I loved also all the horses galloping in the desert. It was so beautiful to watch, and reminded me of Lawrence of Arabia and all these beautiful Hollywood movies.
He trained for 3 years for paragliding, didn't he? For the sky
It's
floating.
crazy.
3 years to be able to do those shots. It's just amazing.
I love that there's this central theme. It's not as involved for you guys, but this central theme of what matters most to you. So I want, it's like, what matters most to you? And Simon's character says, my friends. What matters most to both of you? You're both so busy, you have so much going on in Hollywood. How do you stay grounded, and what matters to you?
I mean, I would say something that maybe I shouldn't say, my independence.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, I love being independent. But, it's like desires change too. So one day you're going to say something and the day after you want the opposite. So,
It's hard to put a...
Yeah.
I'd say my sister. We've lived together for a really long time, and she's an angel in my life, and I just literally I just couldn't live without her. She's just the best thing ever, so I have to say her.
And I also think I fell in love with you as a sister when you played Princess Margaret. You're so incredible. It's stupid. Okay, last thing. Tom, it's been 10 years since your Hollywood debut this year, 2023.
Oh my God, you're right.
Since Old Boy.
What?
I know.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry.
I know.
When I came to LA, I could barely speak English. I came to LA, I learned English by watching 30 Rock with Tina Fey because she's so funny.
Wow.
No way.
Yes. I worked with Spike Lee, the first movie that I did in the US. At some point at the screen test, he said, move forward. Just to step up. I was like, what does it mean? I had no idea what forward meant. So I didn't know what to do. I was like, do you don't know what forward means? I'm like, no. I was like, so he explained it to me. It was very nice, but I was like, oh, what do I do?
Well, look at you now, because 2023, you've got a Mission Impossible, the biggest movie franchise of all time, and an MCU film.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
You did it.
I mean, yeah, I'm proud of this, yeah, but it's the beginning.